Okay, so Pat, we've lost Pamela. Lilburn jumps back. Fantastic. Okay, great. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. I hope you had the chance to meet some new people over coffee break. We definitely did here in the room, which was fun. And we're now just going to do a little bit more of a discussion around how we see business at the moment, the importance of rural women, and a few little fun questions through the process as well. So, John, you've heard from earlier. Ken, you've heard from earlier. Pamela, you've heard from Pamela. We've got two Pamelas and two Pamela L's. I went to do this earlier and I went, oh my goodness, they've both got surnames that begin with L. So welcome, Pamela Laird. If you just want to take your microphone off mute for the moment and join us. Let's just have a quick conversation with you. So you're down in Dublin's Fair City today, is that right?
I am indeed. Yeah,
great
to be here.
So fantastic, you've had the opportunity to join us. Pamela and I met through a mutual friend throughout the COVID days, actually.
Yeah.
And she has a very inspiring story to tell, and probably just want to jump in a little bit at the deep end, and then we'll take it out to a more panel discussion. As we've talked to Pamela Lilburn and to Rachel, we've talked about passion, we've talked about success, we've talked about the drive and tenacity and the resilience that's needed. If you were looking at the one core thing that made you decide to build Moxie Loves, what was that?
Oh my gosh, one thing. I think the determination, to succeed in something was always there. And I guess I started out in nails at the beginning. I was a nail technician. And I felt like, at that stage, I'd sort of achieved everything I wanted to. And without, we had a nail bar, I was running that. And it just felt like that there was a limit to how big that could get for me. And I wanted more. And I was sort of determined to do something a little bit bigger, and I wanted to expand. I wanted to export. I wanted a brand that would be global. And yeah, I was determined to make it happen. So I think I stepped back from sort of my very first foray into entrepreneurship and decided to make something a little bit bigger. And so that's really where Moxie Loves came from.
And clearly from that viewpoint, you spent a lot of time taking that helicopter view and working on the business rather than spending too much time working in the business.
Yeah, and I soon realized, I think having a service business, I realized there was a bit of a limitation, and often people wanted me all the time. And I thought, well, if I can kind of step back, look at a business and think, well, if I have a product range that has my stamp all over it, but that can be sold without me standing over it, I don't have to be there. And I don't know if it's like a lot of people would name a brand after themselves. I purposely didn't. I wanted this to be bigger than any profile I had in Dublin or anything I was going to personally do. I wanted it to be standing alone by itself. And so that was something that was really important to me when I was creating it. I wanted to step away and have it do really well by itself.
Fantastic. Thank you. And one of the highlights, I think, of your business journey definitely would have to be being on The Apprentice. How challenging did you find that experience?
Gosh, of course it was a highlight. I mean, even personally and professionally across the board, it was extremely challenging. I think, I'd ran my own business. I sort of knew the bones about what was going to be required for running a business, but filming a reality TV show while developing a toy or running around Oxford and Cambridge looking for random items on a list while still trying to be professional. It was just, honestly, it was fun, but it was the most stressful thing I've ever done. I run my own business every day. I pitch to Boots, I pitch to these big retailers, but here I am pitching this fake fragrance to Boots, and I've never been so nervous. The pressure I felt, honestly, is indescribable. But I have to say, when I look back so fondly at how stressed I was at small things. And when you watch an episode, it's so funny, like it's super entertaining for the audience. And obviously now I can see that, but I tell you, I was not laughing at the time, that's for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. And if there's one tip, so bearing in mind, your business is up and running now, you have got your brand, you've got your brand recently into Boots? Is that right?
Yes, last year. Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. So well done. So, you know, you're on that path to building a global brand without a shadow of a doubt. For any of the entrepreneurs that's either online joining us or in the room that's joining us and just starting out, is there one key thing that you think with hindsight you wish you'd done earlier, or one key piece of advice that you think would be really great for them?
Yeah, I think there's one thing that just comes up time and time again. The stage I'm at now, where I'm sort of raising my first round, it's to try and raise money when you don't need it. So it's a funny thing, because you think, well, why would I do that? But when you get to a stage and you're scaling and you're trying to grow into new markets and you really need a level of investment in your company, it's very difficult to focus on the company growth at that stage and also raise money. As a founder, you're split in two, and it's so time consuming and quite draining. And if I just started a little bit earlier, I think it would have been a lot easier for me, and I wouldn't be sort of trying to sort of manage my expectations, but also wanting to grow really quickly. And then the other thing I think, which is really important, and it plays into probably every day, I have to make a decision based on how I feel. And I there's a saying that always spoke to me, and that was, feel the fear and do it anyway. Because most of these really big decisions are a little scary, and you sort of have to go, is this the right thing? But actually feeling that fear and plowing on and getting through it, you can actually see real success. And I think unless you're doing something a bit scary and a bit out there, you're probably not doing it big enough. You know, you've got to be a little bit fearful of the decisions you make. And so that is something I daily fight with myself. You know, is this the right decision? But if it feels a little bit nerve-wracking, then you're probably on the right track.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great advice and great guidance. So I'm going to jump over now to Ken and just talk about the local market a little bit more.
In terms of the business support side, Shirley?
Yes, Ken. So I think, you know, LEDCOM has been running for several decades now. What you do for the local community is phenomenal support in an array of different ways. If we look at the landscape at the moment, given the last 18 months with COVID, etc., how are you seeing things shifting and moving? How are you seeing industries changing? Has some of your tenants ended up pivoting? How do you see the current landscape?
That's a big question, Shirley, and I could certainly answer that from a number of angles. What I think we're seeing is that certainly at one level, there's a growth of interest in self-employment. And a number of individuals, I think, have used lockdown and that period that we've all been through to think about what are their aspirations for the future, what do they think of their own career, what do they see as their hopes and ambitions for the future. So certainly we're seeing that development, and it's not just in terms of full-time self-employment, it's the opportunity to consider part-time self-employment where it sits alongside perhaps the day job. John made reference earlier to the challenge of making the leap and having to still pay the mortgage and have the bills. So quite often we would see individuals who are keen to explore self-employment on a part-time basis. And if you can do that, that makes a lot of sense. I think the other area we're seeing is that people have got a lot more used to technology. So we've had a discussion earlier in the breakout room about Zoom, but the number of people who are now much more comfortable in terms of using technology platforms, that does create opportunities. The areas where there's certainly significant opportunities when you think about it, there's significant gaps in the hospitality side from an employment point of view, and there's real skill shortages there. It's the same in construction, and it's also the same in transport and logistics. But those needs and those gaps create opportunities. If you're in a rural area, I think the big advantage now is that you can be anywhere in the world because location is where you want it to be. So the location is going to be your own facility in a rural area. If you want to use co-working or hot desking space, whatever it is, location now is totally transformed. We would see certainly so that's the general trends. I think we're really excited with the fact that this program is focused in terms of particularly helping rural women. And Connie Nelson, who I know very well, was in the breakout room and talking about the opportunity to develop, a small part-time micro business. And I think the scope to develop some of those micro businesses and then see where they go. And that's what you're trying to do with the SEED program as well. And when you do need that support, this program will be a real help to anybody who participates on it. but also the wider support network, the work that John does through Ulster Bank, the work that we do as an enterprise centre from advice, information, networking, signposting, and then if a business plan is needed, where do you find finance? Who can we introduce you to? It's all about helping people along that enterprise journey. So there's a very, very strong support network in Northern Ireland. Sometimes it's a bit confusing because there's so many organisations and so much support out there. And part of that is building up a relationship with individuals who come for support, that you can be a good guide to them. And I think that's what people are looking for is trustworthy relationships, in the sense of having somebody they can have confidence in, even in terms of the support they can provide or who they can signpost them to. I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for, Shirley, but that's a quick overview.
No, fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Ken. And I think it's fair to say you also have launched a fantastic new space and place in Ballyclare. Would you like to just say a few words on that?
Yes, thanks for that, Shirley. I mean, I come from the Ballyclare area, and we're the business enterprise centre for the Ballyclare area as well as for Laird. And in Ballyclare, we have co-working hot desking space. So that's a great opportunity for somebody who wants to test the market, or maybe those who are rather keen to work closer to home. And that's been part of the learning from the furlough and lockdown experience, where they may not be in the office 5 days a week, and working patterns are changing. So we have that co-working space called the Work Cube. And we also then have dedicated managed workspace at Foundry House in the Doak Road, which we have exciting plans for. So certainly we're very keen to talk to anybody that needs support in the Ballyclare or Laird area. And again, I'd emphasize that we are one of the members of Enterprise NI. There are enterprise centres in all parts of Northern Ireland. And if you're from a rural area, an urban area, and you need to get access to that, we can help signpost.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Pamela Lilburn, quick question for you. How do you think rural women can be better supported?
I think being a woman in business in the rural, it's really hard to get noticed, because obviously, well, from my experience, I was obviously a working mum, married to a farmer who obviously worked crazy hours. So being able to have support, childcare was a big thing. Like, I was spending more money on childcare than what I had coming in. You know, I knew I needed to kind of shift things about in order to make life a little bit easier for myself, and obviously be able to be there for my kids. So I think you know, some sort of help and guidance into how to kind of manage all of that, because it can just become very overwhelming. And even if that is just in the form of advice and support, having a network there to be able to just speak to. And I think a network is so important. And you see, like the SEED program, the more I like read into it, if something like that had even been, you know, available whenever we were kind of starting out in our business, you know, not everybody will need necessarily every area. And I would probably say, even as being a business who has already started, there's potentially quite a few areas of that program that could still benefit the likes of my, you know, my business. So I think, you know, being in rural, you're not necessarily getting into the cities, into the kind of high flying jobs, because you seem to be having a bit more of a kind of discreet role. You know, you're kind of in your own little bubble, as we're talking about these days, and it's a lot harder, I think, to get noticed. So being as a part of this program obviously will open up a lot more networking opportunities, and I think for rural women that's really important to provide them with that network, because they don't necessarily know where to go to find that. Had they have been working in a bigger business in the city, you know, I think it's sometimes easier to navigate that.
I couldn't agree more. And of course, you're welcome to come join us at any point in time on any of the sessions. Absolutely. So I'll quickly poise the next question over to John. John, you and I have had many discussions around business, around the dynamics of how we shift and change things, entrepreneurship, having that entrepreneurial spirit, even if you are in the corporate world, and being able to harness that. What What do you think we can do more of today to help people harness that entrepreneurial spirit, irrespective of whether they decide to be their own boss or whether they still work in a corporate?
Yeah, I think back to the previous point. It's very easy, especially for rural women, and actually, I guess anyone outside of Belfast in the north right now is that challenge of, is all the support in Belfast and focused on that. And I think there's a lot of people shout about startups from a technology standpoint and all those things. And I think one of the challenges is we need to be better at shouting about whether it's a really micro business that you're doing 5 hours a week, or you're starting a tech startup that you think you want to go and raise £5 million. They're equally viable to both you and the economy here. And I think we don't do enough to shout about the work that happens with people who just want to start a business that's just them, and enough to make a living and to do the things that they want to do. Back to, I guess, the very start of this call earlier this morning. Why do you want to start a business? Not everybody wants to start a business to be Mark Zuckerberg. Some people want to start a business to have more time with their kids, or I think one of the reasons why I stopped my startup, other than actually going down in horrible flames and not doing a great job at it, was I took that leap thinking it would give me more time to spend with my kids. And one day, one of them said to me, "I see you less than when you were working for someone else." So I think there's a lot of pressure on people, and I think when you're thinking about starting, you look at all this talk of startups that are really exciting and things happening and investment and all those things, and I think it's remembering that that's not every business and investment. And back to Pamela Laird's point at the very start, not everybody on the program will ever go for investment in their business. That's perfectly fine. But for the people who are going to go down that route and possibly will need investment at some point, it's a really key point to think about that leverage when you are going for investment. You need some leverage to come out of that in the best light for you. And whether that's, like Pamela said, about going for investment when you don't need it, or going for investment when it's the right time for you, so that you've got not the upper hand in that conversation, but if you've got lots of people that want to invest in you, it's much easier to get the valuation for your business that you want and it's right for you, versus if you've only got one option. So I think the biggest thing for me, for anyone thinking about starting a business today, is really understanding, back to that first conversation, the why. Why do you want to do it? And never forget that, because I think when you start to listen to other people telling you you should go down this path or down that path, this is your path. The reason why most people do this is to not have someone tell them what to do. And always remember that in your head, that the reason why you're doing this, and focus your attempts and where you're going based on the why and what the purpose is.
You've just reminded me of something that I really do need to share before we end today. So I will find that in a second, because it lends itself straight into that as well. Leading on from what John has just said, Rachel, if you were thinking about who's the best person that you turn to for advice, because I think what happens typically for a lot of people when they start up a business, and especially if you're starting up a business and maybe it's a family-based business, you look at those other members in the family or closest around you for advice, and they're not always the best people to give you the best advice, because they might just tell you what you want to hear. And it's that positive thought process. They're not necessarily being fully honest and transparent, as we talked about earlier. So who would you typically turn to for advice and guidance?
Yeah, so that's a really good one. If you're looking for a book to read, the Mum Test talks all about that, where if you tell your mum, I've got this idea for a business, she's going to tell you it's wonderful, and it's not necessarily the feedback you need. But I've been very lucky. I've thrown myself into multiple startup sort of environments and ecosystems. I've worked with John before. I've been involved in a couple of ones for women. I've been on the Ignite Propel program, and just throwing yourself into those situations with people who have done it before is a lot more efficient than doing Dr. Google and trying to figure out, because things like even registering a company, whether you're a sole trader or a limited company, things like that you can learn from somebody who's done it before. You'll learn that much quicker than if you're trying to Google it or figure it out. So that's where like programs have been really, really helpful for me. And I think this would be a really great program for especially rural women, because, you know, I was lucky I was able to move to Belfast and be in that sort of hubbub, say the big city. You say that to people from London or Dublin and they laugh at you, but to me it's the big city. But like that's not an option for everybody. So it's being able to access those programs, and that's in a way, I think COVID, while it's been awful and there's been, you know, atrocities have happened, but this digital landscape has really, really helped. You know, I've got connections with British and World Veterinary Associations that I never would have had pre to COVID, because I would have had to have flown to Canada or flown to London or, you know, flown about, whereas being able to access that and just kind of putting yourself out there, that's kind of who I would always go to for advice.
So again, what we keep hearing is the landscape is shifting and changing. Surround yourself with the best possible people that will give you that right advice. I mean, if we look at the likes of Richard Branson, you know, he's quite openly shared on many occasions that he's failed and he's dyslexic and a few other things in the process. But for him, all of those things are irrelevant. It's the mindset of wanting to succeed, wanting to achieve, and surrounding yourself with the right teams and the right people that will help you build what you're going to build. So given John's little comment earlier, I really want to share this because I think this is a really valuable point, because I think a lot of people question the process about investing themselves and how that looks like. So someone else shared this with me, and I thought actually it was a very valuable piece of information. So it says, I'm going to have to move my glasses off because I don't need those to read. You graduate uni with 35,000 in debt. People clap and cheer you on. You get married and spend between 5 to 50,000 for one day. People will clap and cheer you on. You take a 200,000 loan from the bank to buy your first house. People will clap and cheer you on. You take a 30,000 loan for a car, a depreciating asset, by the way, with an interest rate. People will clap and cheer you on. That's roughly 365,000 total spent debt throughout the years, and somehow they're feeling good about it because people are congratulating them for it. Now, for the entrepreneurs in the room, go and tell those same people you're going to spend a few £100s to start your own business. Are you sure? They will say. What if it doesn't work? They will say. Can you get your money back? What if people laugh at you? I know a place that's hiring. It's going to be hard to get people to support you. Some of these same people won't even share or like your post. This is obviously on Facebook. They won't help you promote your business either. We talked a little bit about that earlier. They would rather spend their money with somebody else. They will bring you everything negative about what it is that you're doing. So, picture a bucket full of crabs with no lid. The moment a crab tries to get out, the other crabs will literally rip its legs off. Not a nice sight. So for the rest of this year, really, really pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with and who you're speaking to in your life. Shout out to all of you today who are bold entrepreneurs that say yes. If you've got that idea, there's an opportunity for you to do it. So thank you for letting me share that. And thank you, John, for just bringing that back to my mind and the table again. Pamela Laird, keep forgetting I've got two Pamelas. Success is, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and wanting to build a huge brand. And, you know, if you're taking a whole island approach at the moment, looking at the whole of Ireland and getting your goods out. And I'm assuming when you say Boots, you've also got it in Boots in the mainland, correct?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So looking at that bigger, wider, global perspective of what that definition is, how do you see your ultimate success? What does that ultimate success look like for you? And why is it so important?
There's a few milestones. I guess being in the beauty industry so long, there in terms of what does success look like as a beauty brand, there's a few things that spring to my mind. You know, being in other global markets for me is probably my number one, and that's what I'm focused on. We're in October of this year just going to launch in 400 stores in Australia. Again, that came through via a COVID scenario. We were able to do all of those via Zoom. And I probably wouldn't have had an opportunity to get that listing so successfully and quickly if I had to fly there and all of that. So yeah, I'm delighted with that. And then of course, the USA, they're the types of markets that I want to see my brand in. And then the further down success, you know, you look at sort of the landscape of the beauty industry, and a lot of brands are getting acquired by the bigger houses, the Hook Group, L'Oreal, you know, Shiseido, all of that kind of stuff is definitely something to me that kind of feels like that would be a success if you were disrupting the market enough to bother any of the bigger groups. But yeah, for me, there's a few lists of stores that I want to have the brand in, and that is for the next kind of 3 to 4 years my driver. That's the goals that I've set myself and the business.
Fantastic, thank you. Pamela Lilburn, what's next on your list? Or is there a next?
Well, obviously we had started with the milk vending machine, and we have just recently opened the farm shop, and that was kind of driven, I would say, mostly by our customer base. But we are seeing more and more people coming to the farm are enjoying that, being able to kind of see where their food is obviously coming from and associating it with it. So I think we're trying to go down the route of not going into like an open farm style thing, but the education side of it. I think education in farming is so important, and there is such a lack of it. You know, so many children have no association as to where their food comes from. They think it genuinely comes from a supermarket shelf. So I think getting that out there is probably the next step in our on the bigger picture. But in the small interim, just growing the shop. The farm shop is basically a hub of local produce that we can produce here within the north and south of Ireland. And we are so passionate about being able to give other businesses the showcase to showcase their businesses. So everything that we sell within the farm shop are local products. So it's going to be about growing our other products, being able to source other products, and again, just shining a light on other businesses. I think it's so important in the day and age that we are in. You know, as we talked about, it doesn't matter whether you're a small, you know, business that you're just making something in the comfort of your own home. Like, we want to showcase that, because I believe whether you're big or small, you deserve to have that audience. And if we can help that in any way, I would love our shop to be able to do that. So yeah, we have messages come in day and daily of different products. So it's being able to obviously have a good selection process about what we have in the shop, but we are mainly driven by our customers. You know, they are kind of telling us what they would like. And I think as well, if you are operating under that, you're kind of ensuring yourself that you're going to have a customer base. You know, if they're driving you and keeping you going, well, obviously they're going to come back and purchase from you. So if you can kind of keep that rolling. But yeah, our main aim is kind of to showcase other products and then grow into kind of the education side of things for farming.
Sounds fantastic. And just quickly, where can people find more information about you, the business, It's Just Milk, the farm?
So, yeah, we are on all social media platforms. So at We Are Brookvale Farm. Again, website is www.wearebrookvalefarm.co.uk, and then you can catch up with us on Sunday and BBC One at 7 p.m. We will be on Country File for our 3rd episode. And then, yeah, there'll be another one later in the year, so you can stay tuned for that.
Thank you for sharing that. Rachel, just going back to yourself for a second, when is Stable Manager live?
Yeah, so it's very exciting at the moment. We're currently in early access. So we're in the UK, Ireland, and the States. So we've got a general availability launch towards the end of this year. So it's very exciting times at the moment. There's a couple of spaces still on our early access if you're interested, and it's www.stablemanager.tech. And then the plan is next year is continue our growth. We've got some really exciting partnerships with international governing bodies, and then take over the US. So it's easy as that.
Sounds fantastic. And are you seeking funding at the moment? Are you looking for funding?
So not at the moment. I'm not raising at the moment. We have plans in place for that, but the raise will be later on.
Great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Pamela Laird, do you want to just quickly share where people can find you, where they can buy your products?
Of course. So the brand is moxieloves.com, and you can find us in Boots and Lloyd's Pharmacy. And if you're in the UK, we're in all of the Boots stores in the UK, and I think we're in about 20 stores in Northern Ireland.
Thank you so much for sharing. John, I want to touch on one of the last things around in my opinion and my personal vision of Northern Ireland. Having moved back in the last couple of years, it's interesting for me just to see how business is shifting and moving, the culture of what we have here. There's various aspects that we're always dealing with challenges on, but being able to move beyond that political arena, being able to move beyond some of those added complications that are presented there, I see a huge opportunity, and really one of the reasons why I wanted to do the seed formula for rural women, to regenerate some of our old villages and towns. Because when I think about my Father's Day or my grandfather's day, our local little village down in Glenarm would have had 6 butchers, 5 pubs, 4 sweetie shops, all of that, and it really was a community hub. And whilst, a lot of people will say that particular village is still a lovely village, there is no butcher, there is no sweetie shop, there's maybe 2 pubs. And I think there's an opportunity now to really build, as you said, upon some of those micro businesses, upon some of the artisans, bringing different concepts to the table of what community is now looking for, having gone through COVID. Are you seeing a shift and change through your networks, through how the bank is supporting some of the smaller businesses, and really looking at what can we do differently and be a bit more driven towards our communities?
Yeah, definitely. So when we first started our accelerator programs in Belfast 6 years ago now, I would say probably 80 to 90% of our cohort would have been what is seen as traditional startup kind of tech and all that sort of stuff. Today, we're probably at about 20% is that, and the other 80 is traditional businesses that actually want that support and help to kind of grow their business, as opposed to, I guess, what is seen in the media as the exciting tech stuff and all that kind of thing. So there's definitely been a huge shift towards businesses that just need the help, and people who know what we talked about earlier, the things that they're not good at in the breakout room, and understanding those things and being able to go out and ask for that help, to put the support around you to help you grow the business. And I think we definitely are seeing a lot more, especially in the food and drink space. A lot of, entrepreneurs are just people who spot the gaps, and mostly you spend your life thinking maybe someone else must have done this when in fact they probably haven't. And especially in the food and drink space, we're starting to see a lot more really exciting and different and interesting products that are coming out that people, I suppose, in the past have been hesitant to go towards because they felt like there's bigger players in the market. But we're seeing more and more of those businesses take the leap, and I think that's the exciting thing about, especially food and drink here. There's some amazing organizations and businesses starting, but even back to Pamela Laird's point about being in Boots, I think the ecosystem in the north here is so small that there is so much support to help you get there. We've had 7 or 8 businesses who've got their products in the Boots. And we're constantly, we don't charge anybody for what we do. What we ask is that you give back at some point. So those near 700 businesses that we've had on the program, I'm constantly torturing them to say, can you talk to this entrepreneur who's in the process with boots, so that they can now understand what that process is like, what they're going to ask you for, what margins they're going to be looking for, and all the stuff that you don't know when you first go into that situation. So it's about building that community of people who will help each other. And it's not, it's just giving you the insights to know, if you're going in front of boots, that you know how to pitch to them and what to pitch to them. Back to Pamela's point about the apprentice, and I haven't been in that situation, but running into a shop to buy something and all that, but you don't really know what you're doing. Whereas your comfort zone of running the business, you kind of know what you're doing. And I think this ecosystem that's been building and building in Northern Ireland is about helping each other out and giving you that helping hand to know the bits that you don't know right now that will help you possibly get into a Boots or get into a supermarket or whatever it is you're trying to do. And I think that's the exciting thing right now, that we're just seeing a real cycle of that, where lots of people are now getting the benefit of the past sort of 5 to 10 years of people who've been there before them.
Fantastic, John. Thank you so much. I know we're running a few minutes over, but if you could just bear with me for a few more minutes. I'm going to ask Roy to see if he can zoom in on this. I have been very fortunate to have a birthday this week, and it was a very special birthday. And I've ended up with some very interesting gifts. And I think this was because my friends were thinking a little bit more outside of the box insofar as something that's different, and because I am so passionate about entrepreneurs and what that looks like. So we're going to attempt to show you a couple of examples of what has been sent to me that are unique, different, and again, just to encourage you to think a little bit more outside of the box about your unique offering that you're giving to someone. So we'll try this and see how it goes. So it's called Biscuiteers. What they have created is this tiny little biscuit that's like a cake and that says on it, "Happy birthday, Shirley." So something very unique, something quite tiny, something very personalized, and something quite special. So I don't know that you can actually see the writing on it, but I thought that was very cute, very different, and such a lovely little gesture. The second one is a bit easier to open the box on this one. As you can see, it's a VIP gift box, and really it's a pamper box. So in here it's got biscuits, of course. It's got different types of teas. It's got some marshmallows for your hot chocolate. It's got collagen, I think. So it's really like a pamper box of sorts that has an array of different things that have been positioned and put into it. A bar and chocolate included, even some candles in the process as well. So a very clever yet simple idea of doing something different from a business perspective, of providing something as a small token gift to someone in your world and in your life. So some of the entrepreneurs are really genuinely thinking a little bit outside of the box. And I'm going to ask one person to come and join us for a second. Jay, will you come join us, please, for a moment? Can I borrow your... If you'd like to just have a seat. So I just want to quickly ask Jay to share a little bit of her story. We had a conversation recently because she's applied to the program. I have, in fact, given her a place in the program because I am so impressed with what it is that she wants to do and how she wants to make a difference in her community. So, Jay, could you just tell us where you're from and the dream around building what it is that you want to build?
Yes,
Thank you.
I would love to.
Hold the mic a little closer.
So when I was 18, I told my dad that I was going to be a yoga teacher and I was going to move to Australia to teach. And he told me under no uncertain terms was I going to do that. I was going to university and I was going to use my brain to do something. So I qualified as an accountant. I went off to Australia. I built a 6-figure career. and I promptly left accountancy, and I did a teacher training with Anna Forrest, and she was just incredible. Her story is so inspiring, and on the training, halfway through, she takes you through a death ceremony, where you go into a very deep meditation, and she will talk you through your last 24 hours in life, and you go through all your regrets and what you really wanted to do, and what you missed out on. And the only thing that came through was teach yoga, serve the community, teach yoga, serve the community. So the next day, I obviously bawled my eyes out for about 24 hours, and I went in to see my manager, and I handed in my notice, and I drove for 2 weeks after that. I drove 24 hours to a place called Townsville. I'd never heard of it. First of all, I knew no one there, and I left a very good career to teach 3 yoga classes a week, to which my dad was very impressed with me. I'm glad I was in Australia. And I taught there for a number of years, and I went through a very long healing process. The medical profession had told me that I would never have children, and I would never conceive. And when I met Anna, she actually told me that was bollocks, and if I wanted to heal, I would heal. And well, I have 2 healthy little boys, so I did. So I used essential oils, I used yoga to do that, and numerous other weird and wonderful holistic remedies and techniques. And then I started getting this message, and it was like, go home, you need to go home, you need to go to Ireland. And every song that came on in the radio was like, the islands are calling you. And I was like, no, I don't want to go home. I don't want to go home. And anyway, we came home, we moved into the family home, and I really want to set up a retreat center now. We've got so much land, we've got horses, and just to do various different retreat weekends for people. So I had a beautiful birth when I was in Australia. I had a horrific one when I was through the NHS. And I want to create a retreat center where people can come and really use that space to heal and nourish themselves, whether it is they bring their own horses and they can go out for hikes in the countryside, they'll do their yoga, they'll have hot and cold therapies, they'll eat vegan food or really wholesome, good, nourishing food. They'll learn all about essential oils. And it's just not a one-step thing that's going to change their life, but it's different elements that they can bring in, and what's going to really up-level their life. So I'm so grateful to be on this program, because my dreams are so big, but I just don't really know where to start. So thank you.
My absolute pleasure. I was just going to say, how did you find us, and what made you decide that this would be really supportive for you right now?
The hippie in me, the universe just put you in front of me, and I was like, oh, what's this? This looks interesting, and clicked into it and read a little about the program, and then everything was just, I always trust my gut. If my gut says no, I don't do it. If my gut says yes, off we go, and we see what happens.
Thank you so much for sharing. So we had a few ladies in the room today. Unfortunately, one of the other ones has left, but for those of you that are out there thinking, wondering, not sure, do have a look at www.theseedformula.com. There's more information to be able to provide you. If you haven't put an application in for a sponsored place, feel free to do so, and then you can go ahead and book up your appointment for a mini interview. We are here to support you. We're here to help you. Ourselves with our communities, LEDCOM, support with John at Ulster Bank. There is a raft of ways that you can be supported throughout the local community, and we will do everything in our power to help make sure you're up and running, making some money, and actually surprising yourself before the end of the year. So quickly, just opening up if there's any questions. Do we have any questions in the chat, Roy? No. Any questions in the room, ladies and gents? Anything else you want to add, John?
Nope. I don't want to keep anybody any longer, other than just the last thing for me is ask for as much help as you need and keep asking.
Anything else you'd like to add, Ken?
No, ditto to what John has said. We're all here to help, and it's been a great morning. So well done to all the participants and to yourself, Shirley. And we look forward to helping people on the next stage of their business journey.
Okay, so with no further ado, we shall end today's session. Thank you, everybody that has attended. Thank you to any of you that watch on catch up. We're delighted to be here, help support you. Please get in touch. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.